Hey, what's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dow. This is a place where we bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and we do it every Sunday right here on this channel. But when I'm not shooting this podcast, I am the owner of Strategic Resources, where we specialize in political campaigns, government, and political relations. We've been doing it right here in this town for well over 25 years, and I want to make your next move a strategic move. And this program gives me an opportunity to bring in some of the people I've met along the way, life, and hopefully it's something out of that you can get that will help you in your life, or maybe in your business, help you achieve and become a better person. But if this sounds like something you'll be interested in, all I need you to do is one thing. I need you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well, so that you'll know the next time this program is coming on. So, without further ado, we're going to get started with our program. Before I get started, though, I want to welcome the #1 DJ in all podcast history, none other than DJ True. What's up, Latif?
What's going on? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, brother. This is our first show, everybody, right after the
man.
first show of the new year. That's why we was kind of raggedy on our intro. But we going to get better because we took a little time off to get ourselves together, but we're going to do right. So what was your New Year's like, Latif?
Well, we had a big event. Me and some guys, we threw this New Year's Eve event called a toast.
Ah, okay.
I got to shout out my guys that was a part of it. My man Davey, who did a wonderful performance, dropped his
He
new
was on our
album,
show.
Finally Free. My man Ray.
Yes.
My man Ron. My
Yep.
man Goods. My man Ice. DJ Chicago was the DJ. And, of course, the celebrity host was my man Jeff Brown. And if I forgot your name, I apologize. But, I can't forget this person, Jamie. She did all of Davy's choreography, you know, and a lot more. So I just want to shout out Jamie. So the whole crew was 7 brothers and one lady, and we put it down for New Year's Eve.
All right, then. Was it a fundraiser or what was it?
Yeah, it was a fundraiser. My man Ray Smith, he has a sports nonprofit organization. He does a lot with volunteers and fundraising and working with kids. He was a coach of Tri-C basketball at one time, so he's doing big things in the nonprofit sector. And he also, him and his wife, owns a vegan restaurant called Vitamin Candy.
Oh, I heard of them.
So, and he's from your Glenville area. So.
Oh, well, there it is. There it is. There it is. I think I've been to his restaurant.
Yeah, man. Every time I go there, I get the vegan lasagna, man. It's really good.
Okay. Excellent. So everything else went well. Good New Year. Any resolutions?
Resolutions is just to be a little more organized, a little more prepared. And definitely, you know, you always got to shoot for losing a little more weight.
Everybody, that's the #1 resolution for everybody these days. All right, well, sir, we got a special guest in the house today. Is none other. This young lady is someone I've been watching. I watch other podcasts around Cleveland to get an idea of who's doing what, and I always shout this group out, the Pull-Up Experience, because I think those guys do a phenomenal job of working with what they have and get out the message, and has a great job of inspiring and showing entrepreneurs here in Cleveland. And I'm trying to do the exact same thing this year, is to bring on more of those guys. So I looked on their program, saw a few guests on there I think we're going to bring on to our show and talk with as well. And this young lady is the one who I saw first that got me and said, oh, I need to bring her on. And then later on, I see that she actually works for Cal Early. And she does a lot of work in helping him with his nonprofit. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about her business and talk a little bit about her personal life. You know, we like digging in everybody's business.
Get in that business.
We're going to get in that business. So we're going to find out what she got going. And so everybody, for 2024, our first new guest of our show this year, Miss none other than Miss, they call her Lady J, but we're going to call her Angel Jacobs, is here in the house.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for coming out. We appreciate you coming on our program. No, you do a great job of everything you're doing. So, Angel, we're going to get right to it.
Yes, sir.
So, you grew up here in Cleveland. Give us your background. We always do our little thing here. You got to tell us, represent what hood you grew up, where you grew up at, what you did. Yeah. Where you from? You from Cleveland?
Born and raised, right? So, born and raised right here in Cleveland. I grew up in Cleveland Heights, Ohio.
You're a Cleveland Heights.
I'm a Cleveland Heights girl. Shout out to the Tigers.
The Tigers. Well, that's where I live.
Tigers.
All my kids graduated from Heights.
Yeah. So shout out to the Tigers. So I grew up in Cleveland Heights.
Where you grew up in Cleveland? What street you live in?
Silsby.
Silsby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Silsby, the end, close to South Taylor.
All right. So you was close to almost the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. So how you like growing up in the Heights back then?
I loved it. The Heights was everything. It was very diverse, right? And we were able to form unbelievable relationships in the Heights.
Really?
It's the one thing I take away from my childhood is that the relationships that we built, we still carry them today. And when you see a fellow Tiger, it is love, right? So I appreciate that.
That is one of the reasons why I chose Cleveland Heights to go to as a community was that I grew up in Glenville. Lateef, I grew up in Glenville. Oh, he's off my sound guy. Every time we're gonna get that right this year. Look, he gave me a drum roll. We gonna skip it. I'm telling you, we working out our bugs, people. It's been so long. We don't even know where the buttons on our thing anymore.
Where are the buttons?
There go my Glenville, huh? So I'm gonna do it again. I grew up in Glenville. There we go. So growing up in Glenville, when it was when I grew up in Glenville, the neighborhood was that way. It was kind of diverse. We had a few people on there, and over the years it changed. But even when it was changing, it still had a sense of community.
Absolutely.
And as I got older in the community and I started a family, I just saw it changed. Yeah. And Cleveland Heights still had it, and it still did. Now my kids graduated, and now I would hate to say it, but it's changing again up in Cleveland Heights.
I agree.
And so that's one of the things that I hope it does, and I hope it can keep its sense of neighbor and community. And like you say, the schools, they had programs up there, like Brothers Program and all of the Sisters Programs. They had a lot of good programs up at Heights that kept people together like that. And I just hope it doesn't end up like that.
For sure.
So how was your experience up there? You graduated there, went on to college? Or?
Yep, I graduated in June of 1997. Yes.
Okay.
And then I went on to school. I went down to the University of Cincinnati, so I am an alumni of the Bearcats.
Okay.
Graduated from Cincinnati with my degree, and then I came home. I came home because my brother had children. So I have one sibling. He passed in 2019, but I came home because he had two daughters, and I just wanted to be actively in their lives, and so that's where I came.
So let's take a step back then. How many brothers and sisters you have?
I just have one.
Just you and your brother?
It was just me and Michael.
And your mom and dad, or was you single parent? Or
single parent. My mother raised the both of us in Cleveland Heights.
Oh, okay. And how's mom?
Mom is good. Mom is good. She's retired now she's spent over 25 years at the Transit Authority, so she was a bus driver.
Oh,
so
RTA?
She's retired now. RTA.
Okay.
Yep, so she's retired now, so she's at
What line did she run?
Oh, multiple lines. They lines change all the time. So
did she like doing that job?
She did. My mother's a people person, so being the bus driver was
it's different than it was now.
It was different. So we're talking about 25 years ago. She did it for over 25 years. But she did. She liked it. The beginning was rough because, when you are coming up as a bus driver, they just give you any route at any times, and your schedule is crazy. You work days one, nights the other.
Really?
But over time, it became a really good place for her. It was her place of community as well. People on the bus knew my mother personally.
Right.
And they would wait for her line.
That's correct.
She knew all their business, and she would talk to them. And I, like her, am a talker, so she had a good time.
Excellent. That's good. So she enjoyed what she did, and she done retired, and she's doing well.
She's retired. Yeah.
All right. So you say you went on. Did you graduate?
I graduated.
And then you decided, I'm going to come back home.
I came back home for my brother and his children. So, and then I never left. So once you get back home and things start to happen and life unfolds, you just kind of I never left after that. But yeah, I came home for Michael.
So what did you do for a living? Did you come back and went to work, or you came back and you was in a situation you had to come back and take care of him, or what was the deal?
No. Michael was well and fine when I came. Me and Michael are only 14 months apart. He passed in 2019. He had a stroke, but we are 14 months apart, so we grew up almost like twins. And so when I came home, he was fine and he was working. Michael was a laborer. He worked for RTA as well, Lincoln Electric as well. So in my family, we grew up, you don't work, you don't eat, right?
Correct.
The work ethic is extremely strong on the Jacob side. However, I came home and ironically enough, I couldn't find a job.
Really?
I was degreed and I did everything everybody said to go do. And I came back home and I could not find a job.
Wow.
So I was disappointed with that for some time. So I spent some time looking for work. I spent over a year actually looking for work and ended up having to stay with my mother for much longer than I had anticipated. I thought that I was just going to come home and get right to it. And that's just not how the cookie had crumbled. I met a wonderful lady, and shouts out to Stacy Taylor. She was working at the time for Bishop Cosgrove. And they were opening up a women's shelter that is now currently actually, I think, still located on 30th and Payne.
The women's shelter's still there. Yeah.
Women's shelter. So I had some conversations with her. She did not have a position at the time. I'm a person that's built on relationship and energy. So I came to her job every day. I was like, hey, how are you? What can I do? And she's like, I don't have a position. I don't have the funding. I don't have this and that or whatever. But I came back day after day, right? The art of being persistent. And one day she said, I have some things you can do, but I can't pay you for them right now. And I took it.
So why?
Because I need to work. I need to do something.
But why that job? It was something about that you would just wanted to do that?
It was human resources. And it was what I was trained to do. Right? I went to school for human resources. And so in my mind, I was supposed to be doing something in human resource. I just spent a ton of money doing human resource. So I needed to do something that was within my field. And then when I met Stacy, the day I met her, my soul connected to hers. She had the most amazing energy. And then she took me under her wing as the months grew on, and I became loyal to her. And so I was never going to leave her.
I got you.
I was never going to leave her. And so I began doing the work. I grew fond of the work and fond of her, and she gave me an opportunity that most people wouldn't. I was told I didn't have enough experience when I came back. Naturally, when people graduate from college, they come home. You don't have enough experience. Your resume doesn't have what it needs to have on it, primarily because you haven't given me a job. But she gave me an opportunity. She gave me a shot, and I wanted to do the best job that I possibly could. So I gave her the best version of me. And she looked out for me. And so when the shelter opened, I had the privilege of hiring the program manager for the shelter. Those particular people that we interviewed and recruited and hired didn't work out because they weren't in tune culturally to the population. They had the degrees, they had the credentials, they looked good on paper. But they were not connected to the community, and they were, quite frankly, afraid of the population.
Really?
Yeah. So I spent most of my time actually in the shelter in what they were calling an interim position, unpaid, mind you.
Wow. How long you do that?
How long?
Yeah.
I did that for months, actually. I did that for months, well over 6 or 7 months. And then the shelter hit the news. There was some political things that were happening, and some women were being shipped from one shelter to another and being displaced. And we needed to create a front for what was happening. And we didn't have a program manager, so they called Stacy, and she stuck me there. She was like, you know the shelter the best. You've hired for it. You know everybody there. You have a relationship. You have a connection. There's nobody that I can send at the moment that would be a better fit. And I did it scared. I was like, okay, I'm going. I did it because I wanted to please Stacy at the time, and I wanted to do a good job for the women that I had connected to. And they were my people. I wasn't scared of my people, and I went over there and I did that job, and I eventually became the program manager.
Really?
Yep, they gave me the job. Stacy fought tooth and nail for me to get it. I was too young to have it. I didn't have the credentials. I didn't have the experience.
Even though you was doing the job?
Even though I was doing the job. Which is why, Ken, it's important for people to just do the work.
Right.
Right? Just do the work. Do the work. And it's important for you to find out what work internally makes you happy so that you don't have to depend on external reward to keep you in position.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the way that I live.
Absolutely.
Because it's definitely, you don't get to, when you're self-employed, you don't always get what you want. And sometimes you have to step out there and get your own. And, you know, and sometimes it's lonely. You're the only person to see your dreams. And I can understand that. And that's why people like you are important, the ones who want to do the work. You know, I tell people all the time that, you know, in business, you have people who are the personality of the business, but you got to have the people who do the work, you know, and those are very important people. And that sounds like that was somebody like yourself. So you ended up getting a job. How long you stay over at the shelter?
I stayed there for 2.5 years.
Okay.
I stayed there and I left only because Stacy got another job out in Middlefield. And so by way of loyalty, I just went with her.
Really?
I did. I went with her. I set the shelter up to win. I hired a number of different people to make sure that this shelter could continue in its progress. And then I left to support Stacy in her next role.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, so how things turned out? Because now you said you ended up coming back. You was doing that. Now you stayed in Middlefield for a little while?
No, I commuted, right? Yeah. So, I went. I got an apartment out in Mayfield Heights.
Okay.
And I commuted to Middlefield every day.
Okay.
I commuted to Middlefield every day, there and back, to do the job. And I did that for probably a couple years there as well before I came back and started working in the city of Cleveland.
So when you came back working in the city, what was you doing there?
When I came back to the city, I started working for a court reporting firm called Corsillo and Grandillo Court Reporters.
So you did court reporting too?
I did not do court reporting. My expertise is in administrative support, right? Okay. I do human resources. So I went over there to Corsillo and Grandillo. It was a court reporting firm, and I was a manager for them in a couple of different capacities. So I did their hiring, I did their HR, and I was also their administrative support for their front desk.
So when did you get to the point that you figured that I want to be self-employed and start doing all this other stuff?
Absolutely never.
Really?
Absolutely never. It was completely by accident. A lot of people call me an entrepreneur. I've run from that phrase often. I don't look at myself as an entrepreneur. Depending on the definition, I guess I might fit the coin. However, I am more an entrepreneur.
Now, what's that?
I look to make things better.
Okay.
I am a lover of people, which is why my discipline is in human resources. I believe that people are the greatest asset. And I believe that if you nurture that asset, they produce the greatest results. So I'm a person who always is going to ask, Kim, what do you need from me to be great today? You might be the entrepreneur with a vision, with a plan, with an idea. I am going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to take your vision, I'm going to elevate it. I'm going to take your plan, I'm going to take your idea, and I'm going to execute it. I'm going to make it great. So what I like to say that I am is I am a support service, although I can run it. It don't necessarily have to be my idea that I run, though. I get joy from seeing something blossom from A to B. So I have conversation with people about what is it that you want to do, and then how can I help you serve that goal.
That sounds interesting. Entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur.
So how long you been doing that?
I probably have been an entrepreneur all my life. I never knew what to call it.
Okay. Is that something you made up, or is that a real title?
It was actually told to me. I used to date a young man. He will remain nameless.
You ain't gonna give him credit. He gave you the idea.
I used to date a young man. He gonna remain nameless. But he was very wise.
Okay.
And he would say things to me all the time that I would combat in the moment.
Why?
because it didn't sound like it applied. And it didn't sound like what I wanted him to say. So I was like, I would like for you to change the way you're saying that. And he was like, no, this is what it is.
All right.
And it didn't take me till years later, a lot of growth later, a lot of wisdom later, a lot of experience later, to realize that what he was saying is absolutely true. Yeah, it's absolutely true. I definitely take pride and passion in making things better. And taking things and watching them, nurturing them, manifesting them from point A to B to C. Now that makes me journey driven, because I am a person who also knows that my assignment to you or the task is not indefinite. So I am going to maximize my time with you or on this particular project, knowing that I may not be here the whole time, right? So this is why you get the best energy from me. You get the best version of me when I set out to do something, because I already go in knowing that this is time sensitive. This is time sensitive, and that everything can be replaced. Everyone can be replaced. Now, how that gets done, I feel like I'm irreplaceable. What I bring to the table in terms of energy and how I get things done, that can't be replaced. I'm the only person that can do that. I'm one of one on that. But the task itself can be replaced. I can replace that with anybody.
That's correct.
Right?
Well, not really.
Yeah, you can replace a task with anybody.
But can they do the task?
They can do it. Now, how well they do it, how aligned they do it,
That's
to who they're asking is different, but that's a different question.
Okay.
And so I always tell people it is important to ask the right question.
Interesting.
You are not getting the result that you want. You're not seeing the vision that you want because you're not asking the right question. And if you get yourself to a space where you start asking the right question, you start getting the right responses. And then you're able to decipher now what is good for you and what is not good for you.
So how you ask the right question?
By being very intentional about who you are. And part of the reason, this is good here. Part of the reason why people are not winning in life is because they are not intentional about who they are. They are changing who they are based upon the audience they are in front of. That means I have to continue to change my mask depending on who I'm speaking to. I don't do that. I show up unapologetically me on every platform. In any situation, on any given day, you are going to get unapologetic, intentional Angel, which means I don't have to manage that now. I can do that instinctually. The only thing I have to manage now is what process you're giving me. What task are you giving me? Where does the journey need to lead? I don't got to manage the person, though. I don't need to manage the people part of it. And so I tell Kyle, Pastor Kyle, this all the time. I don't manage people, right? Pastor Kyle wears a ton of different hats, and so we have to manage a couple of different things, right? And that's going to require different teams, different structures, different people for each different hat or different project. I don't manage people. I am degreed in human resource, and I can stand here and tell you I do not manage people. I manage the process. The people can be replaced. They can be moved. They can be shifted into a process that works for them, which is why I'm not a fan of firing people. People fire themselves. I'm going to give you a process, Ken, and I'm going to say, can you do this? You're going to confirm to me if you can do it. Then we're going to see if you work the process. If you fail at the task, then the process is not the problem for you. You are not appropriate for this process. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not appropriate for the entire project. I just got you in the wrong space. Ken needs to do this. He's an engineer by this trade. Why would I have him over here doing IT work? Why would I have the IT person doing HR payroll? So
from a business perspective,
absolutely,
that costs a lot of money.
No. Turnover costs a lot of money. Retraining people costs a lot of money. Not listening and being aware of where people need to be strategically costs a lot of money, which is why, and I'm going to drop these P's on you real quick, because I believe that people remember information when it is musical, right? When it has some rhythm to it. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
I agree with that.
Absolutely. So
I'm 100% with you on
all
that.
Things,
yes.
If you prepare
that's correct.
Properly,
that's correct.
No matter what it is, for the game, a coach, for cooking tonight, what you gonna cook the next week, meal prepping, right? Anytime there's a plan and you prepare for the plan, the process is easy to execute. And it doesn't become costly or exhaustive because things are easily, it's like Post-it notes. I put a lot of Post-it notes up everywhere, like I'm creating a puzzle, right? The Post-it notes in their collective is the process. And I prepare for it. And when I need to make adjustments, I just move the Post-it note. If it dissolves itself, I throw it away. If I need to make a new one, I make a new one. But I don't have to ever start from scratch. This is also a caution for people in this January with New Year's resolutions. The art of starting over every year is dangerous. It's dangerous. This world and society will have you thinking that New Year's resolution is the thing to do. This is not true. This is not true. And when you think about it, if you spend every 12 months reinventing yourself,
no, you're never going nowhere.
You're never going anywhere.
Yeah, all right. You're
never
time.
going anywhere. So you can't get
not to mention
up.
You never. It should show you that you never achieved none of the goals that you set out in the first place
because you haven't prepared for them.
Correct.
You don't have a process for them.
Right.
You don't have a system to win. People have to create a system to win. And then when that system isn't working or it's not winning the way you want it to win, you adjust. We don't spend enough time in the art of adjustment. We just want to reinvent.
So what are the steps of putting together a system?
So if you're going to put together a system, it's not going to be universal, right? So this is where people have to have a real conversation. My grandmother used to call it a come to Jesus session with themselves. And you have to the very first thing that you have to do is you have to figure out what your own level of integrity is. You have to figure out, are you being honest with yourself about who you are so that you can present to everybody else the real version of you, right? And then when you do that, you start to figure out what are you doing that is intentional to get to where you want to be. And you can map that out for any journey.
Let's stay on that point. When you talk about the real version of you,
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that?
I'll liken it to the dating world. Most people, when they are dating the mass representative of whoever is coming on the date, right? The best version, the one that shows up with the flowers, the one who comes out with her heels on, the best version, whatever that may look like, right? And you can only keep that up for a period of time. Some of us have gotten better at it so they can make it a longer period of time. But at some point, the real you comes out, the natural you, the instinctual you, the one that you don't have to groom and pretend to be.
Right.
That starts to come out. My goal for people, my encouragement to people is to find out who that person is and bring that person to the party first. Forget your mass representative. Stop spending time on your mass representative. Figure out who that intentional person is that's going to show up 6 months later and bring her or him to the table first. And when you are thinking about it in terms of business as well, figure out what you want to do for real. What makes you tick for real? What are the steps to get you to that and bring that to the table and spend all your time, energy, and resources on that? There is wasted time and wasted money because people playing with themselves.
Interesting.
They're playing with themselves. They don't have enough integrity about who they are that they're just playing with themselves. So they're reinventing year after year. They're feeling like things aren't working. Life isn't looking like a success. When if I'm the captain of my life, as they say, if I'm the CEO of Angel Jacobs, then there's no reason why I shouldn't be winning if I'm the one giving the orders.
So let's go into, you talked about earlier that you said you are a real estate investor.
Absolutely.
You're not a broker or agent. So what made you get into real estate investing?
Complete accident. Right? I don't lie to myself. I would be lying to you and the camera at, to the people. I would be lying to you and the people if I said that real estate was on my journey. It wasn't. Real estate was not on my journey, which is why you have to have your process in place so that when life happens, you can adjust to it.
Okay.
My adjustment to real estate happens to be fruitful for me.
Okay.
So my brother passed in 2019, and I was trying to figure out what my existence on this life was going to be without him. We've been here for 14. I've been in this world with him for 40 years. He was 40 when he passed. We're 14 months apart. We were raised almost like twins. So part of my identity was based in our relationship.
Correct.
So I spent months when he passed trying to figure out how was I going to do life without him. So I ended up taking the last few things that we had did together and putting them on the shelf. So I had spent some time prior to Michael passing trying to get my credit together and had put a beautiful plan and system and processes together so I can buy my first home. And then my brother was the anchor in saying, and then you should invest. And I was like, no, that's your dream. That's your thing. Right. And I wasn't going to do it without him. And so when he passed, I was already in process because we were already pushing toward an investment.
Correct.
Right. And figuring out what real estate looks like. And then he passed and I was like, that's not my dream. It was his, really, for real. Right. And he challenged me on some things. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And he was like, you ain't got no hustle. I was like, what? You know what I'm saying? He was like, you ain't got no hustle. And I was like, yeah, whatever. So we going on to talk about some other things. And so birth, my brand, hustle is a skill, is because it was his mantra. His mantra was hustle is a skill. And all that really meant was whatever you do, whatever you bring to the table, whatever your talent is, right? It would behoove you. It would be in your best interest to be the real MVP of that lane. Whatever that is, right? And so Michael used to challenge me and say, I didn't have any hustle. I was book smart, I was savvy, I could speak, but you ain't got no hustle.
You ain't got no hustle. I understand what he means.
Right? You ain't got no hustle. I couldn't see the vision. Right? You ain't got no hustle. So when he passed, I got some hustle.
It was book and kind of, like you said, you followed what I wanted to do. Even to the point I'll do this free if I have to, because in my mind, I'm going to go into HR and this and that. Hustler would have been like, okay, maybe you need to start your own agency. maybe you need to.
Like, you doing that for free?
Yeah.
Right.
That's why when you say it to me, I'm like, okay.
I ain't no coins quite just yet. You know what I'm saying? But this is why it's good. You have to have a process.
Right.
So I started working. At that point I was working at another organization, and I started to get my life back, try to figure out how to live without my brother on this earth with me. And I started following some people on social media that were doing some real estate things. And shout out to Brick House Realty. I appreciate them immensely. Shout out to Sharitha Turner, who was my real estate agent. I appreciate her immensely. And I was just going to buy a property. Not really know what to do with it, but I was going to do it because it was going to put closure to a dream that I had with my brother. So it was just kind of something for me to do. But then in the process of the journey, I was at work and I was running out of time.
Okay.
Right? Andrea Wilson was asking me to come meet her at houses so we can see showings. And I was like, well, I only got this hour lunch break and it's going to take me 15 minutes to get there, 15 minutes back, right? So I couldn't do it. And then there was stuff I had to do after work and I had to learn. And I just was running out of time. So I started putting into, because I'm a process person, I started putting into the atmosphere, this idea of mission fire your boss. I hashtagged it.
Hold on, what was it?
Mission fire your boss.
Mission fire your boss.
Yeah. I started thinking about what I was going to do and what I needed to do to get to a place where I could walk in and resign. So it was mission fire your boss. And I'm really good. Once you give me something and I can put it on paper, I am good at executing tasks. So I was going to manifest this thing as mission fire your boss. But Ken, life will throw you some curveballs. Them folks fired me before I could mission fire them.
Oh, smack. Oh, smack.
Baby, listen.
So that bitch.
Baby, listen. I was on my journey.
They had a mission too.
Following my process. And because I was getting more and more distracted at work, more and more detached from the work.
Right.
Because what I give to any of my assignments is 100%. Well, they started to get it 90.
Oh, they could feel that it was something else you thinking about.
Right. So and then certain things I just wasn't even agreeing with.
Right.
Before I would just let it fly, because I need my job. Let me just do my little job and go on home. Certain other things started to come up, and I got a little more vocal about my opinion on things. And then December 4th, they called and was like, "We're gonna part ways."
Wow.
I was like, oh, yeah?
Okay. That's
what we're doing? So I then had the opportunity to throw myself into my real estate journey.
Now you in it.
By accident, right? It was not planned that way, But because now I have no choice, and quite frankly, my back is against the wall, I got to make this work now, right? So this idea of flipping houses and buying houses for buying and holding and being a landlord and getting passive income, I got to make this understandable now. I got to make this work. It got to make sense now. I got to put all of my eggs in this basket, and I got to make it work for me. End of the story, real estate saved my life.
And you say now you own what, 8 homes?
I do. I own 8 properties now, and real estate saved my life. More than the properties that I own and the money that it brings me in terms of sustainable living, what it gave me was my freedom.
Okay. Yeah.
What it gave me was my freedom, and I won't trade that for the world.
No, that's priceless to be able to do what you want to do and be able to do it that way. And you do real estate, and you also have a company, right?
I do. I got a company that's called Highest Enterprises. Highest is just the initials for hustle is a skill. I don't have.
So I'm gonna go back to this hustle as a skill thing, because you got a whole thing with this hustle as a skill too. So let's talk about that a little bit. So let's talk about hustle as a skill.
Is how I give life and breath to my brother. It's how I honor him.
Okay.
It's how I honor him. To honor a great man, you should give legs to the things that he believed in.
I believe that.
Yeah, so that is how I honor him. It is what I have done to keep him alive. It is also what I have done to make more people who were not aware of him and the man that he was more aware of him now. So that's really what it is. It started off with me going to the cemetery one day in an effort. Michael has 2 daughters. I have 2 nieces. And when Michael passed, they were 6 or 7 or 8 years old. And it was scary to go to the cemetery. And I wanted them to go to the cemetery. I wanted them not to detach from their father. And the best way that I could do that was to try to keep him in their forefront. So I made a couple of shirts, one for me, one for my mother, one for the kids. And they know that hustle is a skill was his mantra. So I was like, I'm going to slap this thing on the front of a shirt. I'm going to take my family to the cemetery, and we are going to have a positive experience. So, of course, social media, I get on there, I start taking my selfies because that's what I do. And I posted the picture of my mother and I and the children at the cemetery. And people started asking me for a shirt. Some people were initially people started asking me for a shirt who were associated with Michael, who knew him and knew what it meant,
right?
And they were asking. So Michael's friends, his motorcycle club, people were just, asking me for it. My friends, my family, no worries. But then certain people were asking me for a shirt who resonated with the mantra itself.
Correct.
And they were like, oh yeah, hustle is definitely a skill.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right.
They were like, definitely speak more to that.
Yeah.
Right. And so more people started asking me for it as I began to be more vocal and more visual with it. And then it just turned into a thing.
Right.
So then I took another post-it note and I had to rearrange it. Now this thing that I did to bring some comfort to my family so that we can go to the cemetery has now become a thing. And so I just started to breathe life into it. So I started to make some things. I made it became commerce for me, merchandise for me. So I made t-shirts, I made mugs, I made journals, right? Things that were associated to me. I like to write, pen to paper is how I live. So I made a journal for myself. The t-shirts were to commemorate him. I made pens, I made mugs, I made candles. I called it Ambition. The scent of the candle is called Ambition.
That's a nice thing.
Right? So I started to do things, and so I started to brand it everywhere I went.
Start using that skill of hustling,
Absolutely. Michael said I didn't have hustle. So when I do see him at the pearly gate,
he said,
I intend to tell him.
I used all those skills.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that works. But again, it is important to have a process. So that you can start to rearrange things when life gives you a curveball. I didn't have to start over from scratch. I just had to start rearranging things and start putting energy toward things that had become more important at the moment. And so then I created the LLC, which it had already been created prior to Michael passing. But it didn't have any work to it. But the initials, again, are just HIAS, so it's called Highest Enterprises. But people ask me all the time, why did I just do the initials? Because again, I futuristically plan things out, and I do not have time to explain to funders or people that I would be asking for capital what hustle is.
Right.
Hustle has a negative connotation sometimes.
That's correct.
So I don't have time. The culture understands.
Correct.
And it's a quick conversation to get the culture to move from one end to the other. But if I walked into the credit union and said, hey, Carol, I need a $50,000 loan, and the company is hustle is a skill, I gotta see how that sits on her palate.
You just don't even need to do it.
I don't have that kind of time. Yeah. I don't have that kind of time. So it's always enterprises we ain't gotta talk about.
Right. Yeah,
I need $50,000.
Exactly.
Why sign it?
That's smart. Right. You ain't even got time to even explain it.
Absolutely.
Some things don't need to be explained.
Absolutely.
At all.
Absolutely.
And so, how's the organization doing? And you doing well with that? You bringing on clients or?
So the company is good. I have marketed the company as a real estate investment investment firm because that's what I do. The funds and the capital that I get through and from Highest Enterprises essentially goes back into my real estate journey with either purchasing or stabilizing my portfolio. I also use Highest Enterprises to launch 2 different other initiatives where I am able to now offer my human resource services out on a consultant kind of basis. So people can call me and ask me to do certain things or certain projects that I can now, require payment for.
Well, you're a busy woman because I know you got a lot going on. I know I say Pastor Early always got you jumping, and you got all this stuff you're doing. Well, so what else you got going, Angel, that you want to let us know that?
Well, let's see. So I human resource by trade. I own the company Highest Enterprises, which is a real estate investment firm. It also does some human resource consulting. Real estate definitely saved my life. It pays the bills and keeps the lights and gas on. And I also am the executive assistant and director of operations for Pastor Kyle Early, who wears multiple hats. Shout out to Kyle. That's my guy. Everybody knows that he is a brilliant man and a brilliant vessel. He is also a visionary. So I pair well with visionaries.
So let me ask you, what are some of the things, if you wanted to give some information to a young up-and-coming entrepreneur that's looking, or a person, I ain't gonna even call them entrepreneur because it takes a while to become that. A person that's looking today and saying, you know what, I want to start a business or start a nonprofit organization. What would you say you already told them to be totally authentic and bring that person to the table. But what is the other thing, one of the most important lessons you think that person ought to take from this?
If I had to give them some advice immediately out the gate, I would tell them to identify what they want to do, but why. Right? Because it ain't always be good days.
Right.
And on those bad days, the only thing that's going to hold you accountable for why you're still in the process is the reason why you're doing it. So it can't be something that you're doing for somebody else, and it's got to be something that's going to give you some kind of internal reward. People are often not successful because they're in some kind of internal conflict. So the more you can minimize your internal conflict, the more integrity you can bring to the process. So you got to figure out what you want to do and why you want to do it. And then research that thing and then just go to work. Research it, get as much information, be well versed in whatever it is that you're looking to do, whether it's to create a program, a product, a business, and then go to work.
So let me ask you a question. If you could change places with somebody, for a day to do what they do, or to change places, who would that be?
That's a good question. If I wanted to change places with somebody for a day to do what they do,
do whatever you want to do. That one person for a day, who do you think that would be?
A younger version of me.
So you just like to go back some years?
I would like, if I could do a redo, as they say, if you know then what you know now. I don't want to change places with anybody else. I don't want to walk in anybody else's shoes. Other people's shoes may look good, enticing, and even inspiring. I just want to be inspired by people. I don't want to actually walk in their shoes, because when you do that, you're also forgetting that you're asking for whatever their woes are as well. And we're not all built for the same woes, right? I would like to change places or experience me at a younger version again. with the information and the experience that I have now, so that I would make better decisions, different decisions, and experience different things. But I don't want to change places with anybody else in particular.
One day, where would you like to change in your life? Where would you go back to? You got one day. I'm gonna just dig deep now because you went there.
Come on, let's
go.
If
you say in your life you got one day, 40 some odd years later, where would you go back that one day in your life? That's a deep question for me because you made me even think about it, because I sat back and thought about it. One day. Was it the day I was sitting on the porch with all my guys and we had a good time? What was it when I was a kid? We was snowboarding. What was that? What would that one day be for you? You say you want to go back.
If I could go back one day in my life, in my journey, the day I was sitting in my apartment in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I made the decision to come home. Not that it was a bad decision to come home, but I do often wonder, if I'm being honest, had I left and went the other direction and moved to, at the time I was going to move to Georgia, had I moved somewhere, what experiences or other doors may have opened that I could have flourished in that I just don't know now, right? I came home and that's fine, and I don't have any major regrets to that. But if I could change a day to see what it would look like on the other end of a decision, the day I decided to come home while I was in Cincinnati, if I would have moved somewhere else and just tried out what life would be, I am curious of what that would look like.
All right. Tell me one of your guilty pleasures.
One of my guilty pleasures. Cigars and tequila.
Oh, you like cigars?
Absolutely.
Really? You say cigars and tequila. So you one of them. Say, give me a cigar. Any special cigar you like?
I do care for an upsetter.
So you are one. See, thought I was going to twist you. And hold on, I'm not a cigar smoker, so you could have told me anything. I'd be like, okay, but you had a name, okay.
I have a few that I like.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You got a favorite spot you like to go? I heard there's cigar bars around there.
There are, and
I got a spot for you.
Where? Come on.
Every now and then I partake in a cigar with my man Ace. Shout out to Ace Epps up in Akron, but we go to the Cigar Lodge in Akron.
Ooh, duly noted. I will try that out. Duly noted.
That's a big spot?
They have a membership side, and then they also have just a general side.
Nice.
And it's a nice little atmosphere.
Called the Cigar Lodge?
Cigar Lodge.
Cigar Lodge.
Okay, duly noted. I will try that out. But yeah, cigars and tequila.
Cigars and tequila.
Thursday. And they got plenty of cigars and they got plenty of tequila.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a calming thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm usually moving at light speed. I'm moving fast most of the time. And so my cigars and tequila gives me an opportunity to
sit down.
Just let the
cigars alone, that you sitting there, so you ain't puffing at him running. So yeah.
So no, it's one of my, I would even venture to say it's one of my self-cares.
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent. What's the best compliment somebody ever gave you?
Best compliment anybody ever gave me, you're dependable. Yeah. And I pride myself on that. So I was rejoiced to hear somebody say that.
That's a very good compliment, because there ain't a lot of dependable people.
No, I pride myself on it. I raise my hat to that. I show up for people. It's part of my superpower. I always play around on social media, and I say my pull-up game is strong. And if you follow me on social media, you'll see that I'm pulling up everywhere. I tend to support as a love language. It is one of my love languages. So I believe that people need that. I believe that people need that energy, that somebody believes in them, that somebody sees them, that somebody supports their endeavors. So I show up for people. And so for those that are closer in my circle, I really show up, and so I really show up for them. And so somebody, a couple of different people have told me that I am dependable, and I honor that.
Something you wish you were better at?
Something I wish I would, patience.
Yeah, really. I think we all need a little more patience.
I wish I was better at patience.
What's the worst bit of advice someone ever gave you?
The worst bit of advice. Pray about it. It's gonna be all right.
You didn't think that was good advice?
Because it eliminates, or it does not add the key component. And this is dicey because I work for Pastor Kyle. This is
that's why I was looking at. I'm like, that's kind of interesting.
No, this is dicey.
Pray till something happens. No,
it's dicey because we say it so cliche. Like, just pray about it. It's gonna be fine.
Okay.
Right. And in all actuality, we hinder people from understanding that there's work that has to be done, though. Right. And if we're gonna bring it back spiritual, if we're gonna bring it back into that arena, it is also said that work without faith is dead, right? So when I give you just the A clause and not the B clause, I set you up for failure. So if I tell you just to pray about it, it's going to be all right, I'm not giving you the fullness of the statement. You should still be working. You
should handle whatever you got to deal with, and you need to pray about it.
Yes, but you should still be working. And too often, I think we encourage people to just pray about it without any work. And not, I don't mean just going out and doing tasks, but even just the work on themselves, mentality, a mental shift, self-care for themselves, just figuring it out. But just saying, just pray about it, which is cute and cliche. And most of the world is never going to challenge you on that.
No.
Right? Because it's pray about it.
Because it's pray about it. It's like you say, it's cliche.
No one's going to challenge you on that. Right. I am going to encourage you. When that is said, and when that is received as information being said to you, to not to forget to work.
And what's something that never ceases to make you smile? Every time you think about it, whatever it is, it could be something you think about in your past or something you think about, it just makes you feel good.
Seeing people win.
Seeing people win.
Yeah, that's who I am to my core. It's why I'm an entrepreneur. It's why I'm a supporter. It's why I can multitask and do a number of different things at one time, because it is important to me. It is an internal reward to me to see people win. Excellent.
Well, Angel, I really appreciate you coming on our program, because I believe everybody needs an angel.
Amen.
And Angel Jacobs and Lady J, you'll see her on Instagram, does a lot, and she's really doing some things out here in the community. And you're going to hear more about her as she grows. Right now, what we do is we always, in our show, we give you that camera there where you get an opportunity. Say whatever, take your time. I'll give you as long as you want. If you want to stay there for half an hour, I'm going to just sit here. But you can sit there talking to camera, and I want you to leave the people with some inspiration, some things that you want them to know, something about you. Really make sure they can know how to contact you and get in touch with you and that kind of thing. We're going to leave all her information and how you can contact her in our description below. When you get ready to click on the program, look in the description, you'll get all her contact information. But Angel, this camera belongs to you. Take your time. Slide the mic over just a little bit, because I want to make sure when we get slide it that way so it won't be in your face, because I want you to get a really good shot at you. There you go. And let's get a good one, and there you go.
Okay.
Let's pull it down some. So push it down some. Yep, right there. There you go. Right, now we got a good. Family? There you go. Now you're looking good.
All right, hey family, listen. Thank you, Ken, for actually having me on the show. I'm honored to be here. It was an honor to be asked to come. It is always important for us to share our stories with one another. You never know who you will inspire just by speaking. Nothing that you are doing in life is too small. So I just encourage people. If you're following me on social media, you can do that at A Lady J. If you are out and you need something in terms of merchandise, or you want to talk to me or talk about real estate or anything HR, my page is always open. DM me, send me some information. I actually have time for people. It's what I do as part of my love language. I'm going to leave you today with a repeat of what I said earlier, because this will help you in your life. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. If you feel some kind of way about whatever is going on in your life, take a moment and breathe. Take a moment and understand that you can now change the narrative of your story in the blink of an eye. And all you have to do is begin to properly plan for that. So proper planning prevents piss poor performance. You all be blessed.
Oh. Thank you, Angel. Angel Jacobs, everybody. First guest of 2024. Look forward to more episodes in the future, and peace.
Nice.